Look, America, the CDC moratorium on evictions is an illegal taking of property, also known as stealing, thievery, unless there is compensation. Compensation means that the government who is taking the property has to pay back to the landlord a reasonable amount of money for what they've taken. In other words, they're supposed to pay the rent. If they're going to tell the landlord you can't evict the tenant, then they're supposed to pay the rent. It doesn't make any sense for the government, the CDC, to issue an eviction moratorium if they don't want people to be evicted. What makes more sense is the CDC, or at least the federal government, Congress, should be paying the rent of the tenants who qualify for a moratorium. Instead, what the government is doing is they're taking a much smaller class of people, that's the landlord, and they're putting the weight of this pandemic on the landlord financially. And they're saying, Mr. Landlord, you need to take care of people who can't take care of themselves. Is that socialism? I'm not 100% sure. However, that's what the government is doing. They are illegally taking the property of the landlord without compensation. Now, there is some compensation out there because the government has put a lot of money out there for rental assistance. But that money isn't necessarily reaching the landlords. A lot of tenants aren't applying for it. A lot of tenants who don't qualify for it are getting away with not getting evicted because a lot of judges are also corrupt and they're looking the other way. So if that money was going directly to landlords, and if landlords could make claims to that money, like if there was a bank somewhere where that money sat, a landlord got a judgment against a tenant, an eviction judgment, then the landlord could go to that bank and say, this is the money the tenant owes me. Either give me the money or put the tenant out. There'd be no problem. But the bigger problem that we have is that evictions are done at the state level. So we have a federal government that's issuing an eviction moratorium, and state judges who are responsible for how it's interpreted. The state judges decide, well, we're going to let you put the tenant out, or we're going to come up with the excuse of the tenant qualifies. Now, yeah, the CDC moratorium has a lot of rules that you're supposed to follow in order to qualify. But a lot of these judges don't care, especially the really corrupt ones, the biased ones, the prejudicial ones. They don't care if the tenant qualifies or not. If you can give a judge an excuse to keep a tenant in a house and that tenant is going to vote for that judge next year and that landlord isn't, well, guess what? That tenant is going to get the benefit of the prejudicial judge who's not going to follow the law and put that tenant out. So, again, this is an illegal taking. Read the Constitution of the United States. And I'm pretty sure it's in every state constitution too, but for dang sure I know it's in our federal constitution. You cannot take property without compensation. If you do, it's an illegal taking. And you have to have a good reason to take this property. Now, do we actually have a good reason here? I'll talk about that in another video. We might not. I mean, the eviction moratorium's been going on for almost the whole time this pandemic's been going on, and all people keep saying is, oh, the pandemic's out of control. It's out of control. Well, if it's out of control and there's an eviction moratorium, then I guess the eviction moratorium's not doing any good, is it? But we'll talk about that in another video. I just wanted to let all you people that talk back and forth about the CDC eviction moratorium on YouTube just get right to it, right to the bottom line. It is an illegal taking. The government is a bunch of thieves and crooks. They are stealing from landlords. There's another reason why it's illegal, and that's in the next video. Go check it out. It has a little bit to do with slavery. Have a good day, America.